everybody. This is Serena and Donna. We are here to give you our first YouTube. We're a bit nervous, as you can probably imagine. We've both got a few notes in case we dry up, but we do hope you'll enjoy what we've got to say today. And as I say, my name's Serena and Donna's here. Where we decided to talk about ancestral healing in the various different ways you can do it, if you want to, that is, only if you want to, only if it interests you, only if it's sort of coming up and you feel you need to look into it. But just kind of give you a little bit about ourselves just to start off with. I trained at the Faculty of Astrological Studies back in the early 90s, I guess, to do the certification for astrology. I caught the bug really badly and I've never stopped loving it. Between that period and now, I've become a Reiki master. I've got certified with tarot card reading as well as angel card reading. And I do various other bits and bobs. I enjoy dowsing. I'll dowse for people's birth times, by the way, because so many of us, especially of my generation, certainly don't know their birth times unless they were born in Scotland. Of course, I don't know whether people abroad are going to be watching this. Obviously, I don't know what the form is in other countries apart from England, UK, but anyway, so I do dowsing. So anyway, ancestral healing. You can use many sort of mediums for that. You can use healers of all sorts, shamans, Reiki. Reiki's a good one. Not just a one-off. You have to perhaps, do a course, but coaching, which, gosh, I forgot to mention, is one of my main things. I'm a spiritual life coach, which has nothing to do with religion, I'll hasten to add. Hypnosis.
Yes.
Meditating, self-inquiry, journaling, mediumship, which is Donna's area.
Yes.
And astrology.
Yes.
And also shadow work, which is Donna's area.
Yes.
So at this point, I'm going to pass you over to Donna and she'll introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Donna Hinkson and I'm a natural psychic and also a medium in training. And what it is that I specialize in shadow work. Shadow work is basically the side of us that we repress down from when we're children, when we're told to be quiet, told to be good, told we can't do this, told we can't do that. If we wanted to be a dancer, we were told we can't be, we have to be a lawyer, things like that. So basically it all suppresses down into our shadow. And once it becomes our shadow, it becomes our dark side. And basically what I do is I help you heal that part of you, because that part of you is the part that affects you every day with your negativity, with your illnesses, and basically can really sort of hold you back from moving forward. So that's what I basically specialize in, shadow work. And that's where ancestral lines come in. Thanks to Serena teaching me about ancestral lines and how they can affect you in your everyday life. And basically you carry on the ancestral pain that can come right through from their lives to your life. And that's where Serena's come in and explain that to me. Perhaps I could pass it over to Serena. She can give you a lot more detail on ancestral lines, and I shall say a bit more in a minute.
Okay, thanks, Donna. Yeah, well, I think I'm just going to go into it via a little bit of astrology today. And there are all different astrologers look at it and deal with it in a different way.
Yeah.
But we can look at particular planets that might catch our attention when we're doing a reading for somebody, aspects going into those planets, and also angles. I'm really keen on the angles, which are there are two angles that ground the chart, if you like.
Okay. So why
lots of mathematical.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was asking you why you're interested in the angles.
I think it's probably because I've got planets on the angles and they've really played out very, very obviously
Right.
in my adult life, obviously, since I've
Okay.
been, you know, having a lot of self-inquiry and learning via astrology. And watching other people too, transits, we call the movements of the planets up there, resonating with our own birth chart at different times.
Okay.
And I noticed that transiting planets moving around and touching my angles,
Yes.
you know, very real stuff comes up, very real issues,
Yes.
etc. And that the angle that I'd be attribute to looking at for ancestral healing would be the bottom angle, which is called the IC, Imum Coeli in Latin, which is basically the bottom of the heavens. So that's where we look at our roots in the chart, and it's where we come from, our heritage, our clan. Yeah, and I think that's what we picked up with your chart, didn't we?
Yes, we did, definitely. Yes.
Yeah.
So how do we, sorry.
Go on.
I was just going to say, how would we expand onto showing that that line that you've mentioned would impact onto ancestral lines through the lines? Because that's what we discovered with me, didn't we, Serena? That I didn't realize that my dad leaving me before I was born had a great impact on me to this present day. I thought, because I didn't know him, it would have no impact on me. But then when I met you and he did my chart, you blew my mind by saying that was the first lesson I learned, was rejection from my father actually leaving me before I was born. So how would you describe picking up on that kind of ancestral lines?
Basically, with regard to the fact that he had already died,
Yes.
He's still your father.
Yes.
And you're alive now.
Yes.
So we're still going to be very much looking at the father in a chart. I'm going to actually say specifically in yours, as you asked it about your story, because I can see in your chart, which I'll see if I can show people. I don't know how well that's going to. Is there any reflection?
No, that's really clear. Thank you.
That round bit.
Yes.
And that's the angle, the IC.
Yes.
And then there are aspects going like that and like that,
yes.
which form something called a T-square.
Right.
And I just, and also, you know, you're a bit psychic with it as well, or I am anyway. That sun down there, I was very kind of drawn to, alerted to, if you will, when you first started talking about your story.
Yes.
And then we delved more into the story about your father and his issues. And I could see that you were carrying on, you'd taken on, if you like, those issues yourself, because he obviously hadn't redeemed them, if you will.
That's right. Yes.
Ancestral healing, because it's rather like unresolved issues being carried down through from one generation to another.
Yes.
Until time that somebody picks up the baton and says, I ain't doing this no more.
Yes. And that's where I got.
Yes. You know, 100%, and want to learn about it, heal it, and let it go. But it needs a bit of what I call heavy digging, groundwork.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
do a bit of work with it.
Absolutely. Yes. And that's where shadow work comes into it.
Again?
That's where shadow work comes into, like finding out what it is and then healing it. Yes.
Exactly. So you've been very diligent with that. You know, that's really good. And there are what we call stressful aspects going into this sun.
Yes.
So we know immediately that there are challenges, blocks, lessons to be learned.
Absolutely. Yes.
You decided to be born at that moment in time.
Yes.
And whatever is born at a certain moment in time takes on the energy of that moment in time, said Carl Jung, the great Swiss psychotherapist, who contributed a great deal to astrology back in the day. So your soul obviously thought, that's a perfect parent and family situation that I can incarnate into at a particular time, date, country, whatever, in order to continue the evolution of my soul and learn the lessons that I need to learn.
Absolutely, and that's what you made me aware of, which I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
presumably, you also knew, we won't know till we go back, do
Yeah.
we, how it works. But I mean, you obviously also said, well, I'll take on that ancestral healing as well.
Yes.
Because you see, Pluto's involved.
Yeah.
And that can often be the grandparents.
Yes.
These issues, which obviously we're not going to talk about now, could go further back, you see.
Absolutely.
Further back than your dad.
Absolutely, but it helps because once you know what you're carrying ancestrally, which you made me aware of, which I don't think many people are aware of, that we carry these ancestral lines through and all this pain through, and to become aware of it, then you can help yourself to heal it, which you've obviously made me aware of the fact that I was carrying my dad's pain, and now I've been able to heal that by calling him in, going to a quiet place, calling him in, and then getting a pen and paper, and then holding it in my hand, and then writing fluently through come through me, and then talk to me, and then wrote out what he wanted me to know, how he felt, so we could heal that together. So it's great that when you do the astrology with people and with me, because then I could find out what it was that was blocking me from my own healing. So that's been really, really amazing for me. And I think it's important for the people to know how astrology affects your healing and your path and your choices.
Well, I wouldn't say it affects it, but it's an area that you could look into.
Yes.
And then you made a good point there, because I mean, you know, how would we know? Why would we know we've got ancestral healing to be healed?
Yes.
I would say that what could be happening is that you get repeated lessons, challenges, blocks that keep repeating at certain periods in your life.
Yes.
You know, I've had a lot of people. I've also worked on the telephones with card readings, and had a lot of people in the last year with obviously a lot of issues. You don't need to sort of state that one too clearly, but and when I've brought up that one needs to look back and deal with a particular issue. Oh, I've done all that. I did that years ago. I've read all the books. I've done all the healing. I'm alerted. Immediately I'm alerted, because, you know, it's too much of denial, if you like.
Absolutely.
Also, the fact that what I would then do is suggest to the person that it sometimes can take quite some years to sort out a particular issue, and we can have huge gaps in between, because hey, why not? We've got to have some let up and some breaks.
Absolutely.
But each time it comes back, we need to learn a little bit more, put another piece of the jigsaw into the story. Some people can sort it out in one fell swoop, but people that have perhaps, you know, more than one, or it's a very difficult situation, it can, you know, go on, and people get tired of it. You know, hands up here, I understand that one totally. People do get tired of it.
I must admit, you're right. Yeah, I've got tired of it. I thought it was like an onion, and it's like a really big onion. You're peeling a layer and a layer and a layer, and then you get exhausted, so you do want to break from it. You're absolutely right. It can come to the point where you think, will it ever end? So yes, you do need breaks in between.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then, you know, you might just not bother to deal with it, really.
Yes, that can happen. Yes.
Yeah. What's another thing that's quite interesting is, which I mean, I don't do a lot of this work. It's only, I mean, I'm not a specialist in it, but if I'm alerted to it, doing a chart reading, then I find it very interesting going into it.
Yes.
Somebody might, you know, who's quite keen would you'd have to, if you could, get perhaps the birth dates of your grandparents as well, and take a look at the parents, the grandparents, the auntie, uncle, siblings, whoever you can get your hands on. You know, you don't necessarily need the times, actually.
Yes. Right. Okay.
You can look at you know, the planets and certain aspects which are the connections, if to put it very, very simply, a mathematical connection between one planet and another. They're neither 90 degrees away from each other, 150 degrees, 60 degrees, whatever, and we gain information from that number, if you like.
That's brilliant.
And yeah.
Would that bring up the ancestral? Would that bring up all the ancestral things that need healing as well? If you went
what you'd look at, you see, is if you had a few charts there, then you'd look and see if there's a common theme running through.
Right. Okay.
And I did that some time ago with my own family. Yeah. And I found that there was one planet and an aspect going into it that was very, very prevalent and predominant.
Right.
And that is the planet Uranus.
Right.
And Uranus is kind of the maverick, the energy.
Yes.
It projects, and it's about independence, doing your own thing, not running with the crowd just because you ought to. It's often thought of rather like those lemmings, those little animals that all apparently do a mass suicide over the cliff. Probably they don't know why they do it, but the Uranian energy is you are certainly not a lemming. Well, you might all be going over, but I'm staying here. I'm on my own journey.
Yes.
It's very individualistic.
Right.
Energy, non-conformist often, well, hello.
Yeah.
And a bit of the rebel, and different, also progressive, wanting to move society on, an awakener of higher consciousness, and of course humanitarianism is of a great interest to try and improve the lot for mankind, and often that's quite a lonely sort of path. But Uranus find that. So I saw that this was cropping up a lot in my family dynamics, going back and looking at the stories, almost a little sad in a way that Uranian energy, for one reason or another, was blocked and couldn't manifest.
Yes.
And then what you find with people and with these sorts of setups, families with these sorts of setups, is that somebody somewhere along the line says the buck stops here.
Yeah.
I'm obviously quite clearly here to redeem it.
Yes. Yes.
And I am the sort of the different one in the family. I've got a very, very strong Uranus in my chart. It's a slightly different aspect to all the others in the family, but mine is the one that's kind of I've accepted it after a while, and I'm running with it, and I'm living it. So then I look at my own children's charts, and they haven't got the issue. So I've stopped it. It was almost preordained because obviously, well, not obviously. I actually really got into my Uranian energy after both my children were born.
Right. Okay.
So preordained as well. But
is there a reason for that?
Who knows? We won't know till we go back, will we?
Okay. We'll have to do a Zoom from up there.
Yeah. And of course there's also karma, you see.
Yes.
Which you could say it's the same thing as ancestral healing, but there can be subtle differences.
So what would be the subtle difference between karma and the ancestral healing?
Well, karma doesn't necessarily have to be linked to ancestral issues.
Yes.
Because you can have karma with a person.
Yes, absolutely.
Your boss.
Yes.
That sort of thing.
Yes.
Which isn't necessarily family.
No, that's true. They could have been in a past life you've crossed over from something you've done with them, and you promised in this life you would work that out and the roles would reverse, and they could play out the karma back at you that you've given them in the past life. So that's possible.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean, that's a very interesting part of the astrological chart.
Yes.
It's called one of the areas we would look most specifically for karma. Well, there are planets, Saturn and Pluto are very karmic planets, but there are these two things that are not planets. They're celestial degrees called the North and the South Node.
Yes.
And the south node is what you bring with you from the past life in question.
Yes.
And you know that sort of, all that stuff. You brought it with you. There's a knowing. But you need to move in this lifetime. You need to move on from that. Keep what's useful from it, obviously, and let go of what might be holding you back, and move towards your present north node, if you will. And we know yours is being affected at the moment. We know we've talked a great deal about that.
Yes.
But just for example, but you see, there's often then a connection between the karma and ancestral healing, because say you've got someone with their north node, what they're striving and moving towards, what they need to move towards. It's not a choice thing, really. You really need to move towards this.
Absolutely.
In Aquarius.
Yes.
Funny enough, that's the sign that's ruled by Uranus. So there's a connection there. So, having your north node in Aquarius, you're wanting to move towards working with, helping people for the betterment of mankind.
Yes.
You're working up towards moving out of stale situations, life patterns, etc., and moving through and helping inventions. Sustainable living is all another great interest of Aquarius. But again, being a maverick, doing your own thing, but for the good of all. Yes. It's not really very personal. The south node with that is in Leo, where it's all about me. My beautiful creativity and my this and my that. But over there, this lifetime, we're going over towards what's the best for everybody.
Which is,
and we might all not like it, but this really, it's a good decision to work towards that. And it's about awakening people too.
Yes.
Well, that's karma. But say that, I've found a chart, say that karmic axis is in a difficult, there's a funny little thing that looks like the north node.
Oh, yes, it does. Yes.
And it's going down and doing a 90-degree angle to the moon.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm not getting this quite right. It's going down. Where is the moon? Here, there's the moon.
Right.
Difficult doing it this way.
Oh, yes.
And then the moon is then in turn doing a 90-degree angle to the south node.
Yes.
And that we call that the moon's in the bendings, which is a fun expression. But this is what we call a tight T-square, and there's tension here and something very much to be resolved before we have to. It's almost like we have to go via the moon, which is the family, the mother. So this could be where the karma is. So there's ancestral healing, I beg your pardon. So that ancestral healing has to be adhered to before we can move into that north node.
Yes, well, that would make sense, because that's where the block comes, isn't it? Where we hold on to the ancestral pain, plus our own pain, plus our own karma that we've come to heal. So it's basically is like an onion, isn't it? And peeling pieces of it till we get to the root of what we come here to learn, and to also hope that we don't come back again and learn it again, because we haven't learned it the first time.
Well, that's it, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. You often see planets in a chart sitting next to the south node, which often indicates, oh dear, sorry, you didn't learn it last time. Gotta have another go this time. But hey, that's okay. It might have been a very, very, very testing and trying situation.
Absolutely.
So how about you with you see, some people might know nothing about their heritage, but there's something that keeps reconnecting. Would you, if somebody came to you, be able to connect with any ancestors, and they might be able to give information about what that person might or might not need to be attending to?
Sometimes when I've stepped into my mediumship reluctantly, thanks to your support I'm stepping into, I have found that I'm going sometimes into people's past lives and picking up little bits of details about things that they could be carrying. And it depends on the person, how open they are to where they are in their journey. So the more further on in their journey, the more they understand about incarnation, and the more if they understand about the soul's plan and things, it's easier to explain to them, and the more open they are. It depends where they are in their journey. If they're right at the beginning, I would tend not to bombard them too much with that. It would be all about more or less what they're going through in this present moment that they want to heal. So it is, but then once we've layered quite a lot of the layers, we could go into the ancestral things, because I think the one thing that people don't really want to hear is straight away, as soon as you start talking to them, well, this is your ancestral stuff, this is this and this is this, because I know if that was me, I'd be running. So I think you have to be very gentle with people and kind of let them learn things slowly. But I think what I enjoyed about what I've enjoyed doing with you with the star chart was that you kind of did me a chart, and as you did the chart, you explained it to me slowly and showed me the icons and pictures so I could understand and break it down for me, where I think that's very, very, very helpful and very therapeutic. Then they would come, say they come to me afterwards to do shadow work. We can work on what you've uncovered for them, and then we could work through it slowly as they've become to realize actually what it is that they're here to learn, and also what they're here to heal from ancestral lines as well. So I think that we kind of work hand in hand in that sense, and I think that's when you start to get people where they need to be. So yes, that's what I would suggest.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Yeah, yes, because if somebody came just for, I don't mean just for, but for an astrological reading, which is roughly about an hour. Sometimes my boundaries aren't very good, so
I'd say they're quite
more because I get so excited with it all. So.
I can see why. It is lovely. It's really interesting. I love it.
Yeah, but I wouldn't sort of go into all this heavy stuff in great detail in a preliminary consultation. Absolutely not. If it was established that that particular person wanted to spend a lot more time looking into everything, then obviously that's where I would suggest the spiritual life coaching.
Yes.
Because then we can, like we've done with you.
Yes, that's what I've stepped into after the chart.
Things out when they're ready, when you're ready.
Absolutely.
Gently. And it's not too much of a shock for somebody.
That's right, yes.
And then people don't know what to do with it all, and so because we've had sort of weeks where I've kind of set you a bit of homework, haven't
I? Yes, homework. Doesn't that bring back memories? Yes, but the homework's been brilliant because it's helped me on my journey, because so many times I've done courses and things where I've done something and then I've never quite felt, or I've done a session with someone and I've been left with more questions than answers. And I think with your life coaching, I've come along with all my questions, and week by week you're answering them, and that's helping me understand, because you can tell somebody so much information that they end up standing there thinking, now what do I do with it all? But the good thing about your life coaching is you take you step by step by step by step. And yes, you have homework, but that's a good thing, because that allows you to sort of like research things in your own time, progress in your own time, take a step forward, and then come back to you and say, hey, Serena, I've learned this, but and then I've got another question. Can you answer that? And that's been really helpful for me, because it's also it's been like a double healing. It's a healing of me and a healing of ancestral lines as well. So it's been really, really brilliant for me, and I'm really enjoying it. I don't plan to give up yet on it.
I'll hasten to add here to anybody listening that it's not obligatory. We don't do homework every week. It's only as if there's something I feel you could do a bit on your own.
Yes.
Delving into, and of course,
yes,
I've got you into the journaling, haven't I? Which I think
you have got me to the journaling and explained to me boundaries as well with all, because I was not very good at boundaries, but that's something that you've really taught me, is boundaries as well, which has been a very important aspect to this.
So in what context, Donna? Perhaps you could explain that to people.
Because my boundaries were all over the place before I met you. I didn't know when I was psychically reading somebody or whether I was just chatting to them over the fence. There was no clarity, and you've given me that clarity to just speak to someone over the fence just about ordinary things, rather than going into their psychic and starting giving them details they don't really need to hear. And also you've given me boundaries in the sense of boundaries for myself healing, self-love, self-understanding of myself. Journal, but don't obsessively journal. Journal when you're ready and let it go when you're ready. Be kind to yourself. Go back to loving music. go back to, I'm going to do yoga, but it doesn't have to be like in a leotard flying around like Jane Fonda. You can just you can do it gently, you know. So you've been kind of like stop my obsessiveness of everything has to be extremes. You've kind of showed me that it's okay to do things in small pieces, be gentle with yourself, and the end result is to love yourself. And that was something I've always struggled with, for loving myself, as well as understanding all of this, because to me it was a minefield. Stepping into all this was just like a minefield. I didn't understand any of it, and since we've been going step by step through it all, it's helped me in such a way that I really appreciate, because you can be given all, like I said, all this information, and you can just feel totally bombarded by it. But the homework I think is really important, because it allows you to research things that you and gives you time and a focus. So yeah, but like you said, homework's not compulsory, but I do like the homework. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I do.
Well, yes, but you know, no one's dragging you by the hair to do this self-investigation and self-healing. So it you know, it's a whole different ball game when we're older, because we're, you know, we want to learn, we want to grow, we want to heal. Absolutely. It's not like, you know, back at school, you've got to learn a French verb by next week. You just don't want to be doing that.
I wouldn't be. No, anyway. I wouldn't be here if I felt that way. No, but I think for me, it's been, I was basically lost, and now step by step I'm finding myself, but very gently. And I think that's what's important about you, Serena, is you're gentle. You don't do the homework. You don't tell me off. It's a choice, and it helps your self-development, and you can see it as a result of doing that. You can see what's happening. I can feel a difference in me when I go to family situations now, or anything ancestral that obviously families can trigger. I'm a lot more grounded when I'm there. I'm a lot more compassionate to myself and to them. I'm not carrying it in such a way. I used to be a very angry person, but now I'm learning to be very kind and compassionate, and think about others, not just myself. So that's something that's been really important to me doing.
Fantastic
journey. Yeah.
Well, you know, I think it's brilliant. Obviously, I tell you regularly, but just a little bit more about the journaling too. I mean, it's obviously not everybody's bag.
Yes.
It'll suit some people more than others. But what I would say for it is that if you in a situation where you can't afford to have therapy or consultations with people, etc., it's the cheapest therapy on the planet.
Absolutely. And if you're not good at writing or not confident with it, you can go for a walk in the countryside and just lay in the grass, look at the sky, and think about all the times you've been hurt, and you want to say, I just want to let that person go and I forgive you. Or you can dance in your front room with a music and just think about that time and say, I forgive you and I forgive me. There's so many ways you can heal it. It does not necessarily have to be journaling. Journaling is very, you can write details, and you don't have a set format. You can write it however you want. But but definitely you're right. If you can't afford the live coaching, well, our videos will be on. We'll be uploading videos, Serena and I. And if you like any ideas of what you'd like us to talk about, we're happy to accommodate.
Give it a go if we know anything about it. Yeah.
Please comment and let us know if there's anything else you'd like to hear about. But yeah, journaling is definitely, like you said, it's a cheap, easy, powerful way of healing yourself.
Yeah. And also, I might say that if anybody wanted to go into to actually have coaching, they don't have to look into astrology.
No.
Because I kind of should have perhaps, you know, I was a bit tongue-tied right at the beginning, but I should have, you know, when I was doing my little bio, really, that to say that I call the spiritual life coaching the sort of the umbrella for me.
Yes.
And then underneath that umbrella, I offer different things to help you get to know who you are, etc. And astrology is only one of them. So it's not obligatory to look at astrology, because astrology is not everybody's bag again, you know.
I should put the links down below so that people can sort of look more in detail at what you do offer. So if they are interested in anything, and also they can send you a message to ask you if you do.
Yes, I think that's probably just a message, isn't it? If they wanted to know, at this stage, and likewise with yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Putting your details down there as well, aren't we?
Yeah. And I'm also practicing. I'm practicing to be a medium, and I'm getting there for confidence. And I'm very grateful that your dad has been a great support to me on that. It's really been helpful, and really helped me and guiding me. And guiding us to do this video, actually. You must be very proud watching us.
I know, it's amazing. Talk about ancestral healing. I mean,
Absolutely.
my father left the planet in 1988.
Wow.
So he's definitely an ancestor.
Absolutely, but he's been quite pivotal in this sort of video we're doing now. He's guided us both. I mean, one day I got up and he was there talking to me saying, you and Serena need to do a YouTube video. And I was like, okay, and I'll talk to you about it. I told you. And he was like, yes, straight away. And all the odds against us with all this disconnection with the computer and that. And now here we are doing our video, our first one.
Well, it's obviously this is the right time now,
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Yeah, when computers play up, it's, you know, not the right day, the moon's not in the right place.
Absolutely.
The wind's blowing in the wrong direction, you know, try again later.
Yes, as we looked out the window and it was raining and pouring, windy, I thought, oh, well, we're never going to get a connection, but...
Well, I know, yes, I felt it was very much. So I think that's all I really want to say about astrology with ancestral healing. I mean, obviously, I bet people will want to know a lot more about your mediumship and your journey to training. Should we talk about that another time?
Yes, we should do a video on mediumship and people who are psychic, because I think it's important for people to know what actually
and how you connect. Do you remember you were kind of getting people, you know, spirits coming through when you were standing in the queue in the supermarket? Well, go away. Sorry, I don't want to.
Absolutely. I'd be like, who's this in my head? And why am I picking up this and picking up that? I was completely like an antenna. I just was completely confused. So thanks to Serena teaching me how to bring in my boundaries, which was a very important issue. Once you get your boundaries in place, you can start thinking about the other things and how to bring it out in a more professional way. So yes, we could definitely talk about that next time.
We do that in another video.
Yes, we would. And
but do put comments underneath.
Absolutely.
If you know, obviously all 5-dimensional comments, nothing sort of, you know,
nothing too hard. Yes,
we want positive or you know, positive suggestions.
Yes. If you don't like the video, please just turn it off. We'd prefer you to do that than write something negative.
Exactly. Yeah. So do you think that's it for today?
Absolutely.
And one thing we was trying to remember to do is if you wanted to, it'd be lovely if you could press the like button.
Absolutely.
And subscribe.
Absolutely,
if you would, and also to share if you enjoyed what we were, and you've got some mates who you think, oh, they might, you know, enjoy listening to that.
Absolutely.
So we'd be really grateful, wouldn't we, Donna?
We'd be very grateful.